success as much as you want to sleep. Some of you love sleep more than you love success. And I'm here to tell you that if you're going to be successful, you gotta be willing to give up sleep.
Yo, 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 yo. Happy Sunday. Did I say Sunday? I'm still living off the high of New Year Eve. Sorry about that. My apologies, folks. Uh, how y'all feeling? How y'all feeling, man? We back. Assembly of Excellence in the building. I'm a little tired. I'm not gonna hold you. It's been a long week. The transitioning from last year coming into this year has been it's been very interesting to say the least. Just because you leave one state of mind doesn't mean that you won't have those trials and those tests moving forward. And when I left out of 23, I knew that when I came into the coming year that I was still going to have things that I was going to have to deal with and navigate through. So I guess that kind of threw me for a loop today. But shout out to everybody, man. Peace and blessings, glory, praise, and honor to the Most High. We are back. I am excited. Uh, every time I get an opportunity to get here at this point, I am so grateful. So grateful for the dialogue, for the back and forth, for the people that I get to interact with. Shout out to everybody who pulled up on the stream on Sunday. Shout out to everybody um, that's just been showing so much support and so much love to the channel, man. Couldn't do this without you guys. And as we move forward, we will only build a strong structure for everything that we are trying to work towards. So, salutes to each and every single one of you from the bottom of my heart. We got some things to talk about tonight. You know, I don't do anything or try to do anything superficial. If you're not familiar with the gentleman that I'm going to bring on, I reiterate you need to get familiar with this brother. Um, I give my flowers to my writers, my artists, my creators. I give my support and my thoughts and prayers to all of you, the ones that's struggling, the ones that is still trying to find a way salutes to you and your craft and your fight and willingness to be better than what you were the year before. Tonight though, we got to talk about the importance of community. It's a very slept on conversation. And I couldn't ask for a better person to bring up here to have this conversation. Make sure you give this gentleman a warm welcome. Y'all give it up for Jason Matthews.
Hey, Melvin, what's going on? So glad to be here. Thank you so much again for having me on.
Of course, of course. Blessings to you, sir. How are you feeling?
I'm well, thanks. I'm well. I've been working on a project. If a friend of mine and I are putting together a workshop for men in leadership. So I'm just putting the polishing touches on one of the modules. It's turning out to be quite the undertaking, but it's a lot of fun.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So how let me ask you before we go into this, what's the process been like doing this and putting it together with your partner?
So him and I collaborate on the ideas. He's more of the bringing things into my awareness. He's the idea guy. He like, I wonder how we can actually do this, and what can we do to actually make it happen. How can we create a process that makes it possible? And then me, I look at all the information, I filter through the things that are going to be best to work on. And then we both work on how we're going to make it possible. What challenges we get out of each other's way in order to help happen, in order to make it happen. And then I'm the doing guy. I'm the one that actually takes the idea and brings it down to earth into reality. So that's kind of what I've been doing at this moment. But I actually have a meeting with him on Saturday, and we're going to be going over the things that I've put together so far, see how it lines up with where we want to go, and move on from there.
That's a beautiful thing. It really is. When you have someone that you can feed off of, or bounce ideas off of. If one person operates from one perspective while you operate from the other, and you can cohesively bring your thoughts together to create something unique and special, it's rare. It's not something that we come across a lot, but when you see it, you have to acknowledge it and at least say, yeah, this is something that I inspire to be a part of or create myself. Anytime I see someone that is in a position to where they can do things like this, I think it's a beautiful thing, and it needs to be noticed and recognized a lot more. That process, the things that you have to do behind the scenes before you actually get the physical, tangible part of it, goes unnoticed so much. And I know even just me doing like my spoken word and editing videos, all of that stuff is tedious. Unless you enjoy it, it can be a very taxing, project. So salute to you, salute to your brother, man. I'm looking forward to seeing how all of this turns out when it's done.
Thank you.
Um when I think about just life in general, it's so random, right? Because you have a million things that go on through your head throughout the day. I try to target certain aspects of life that kind of touch me in a way that doesn't necessarily touch anyone else. And one thing that I thought about and I think about a lot all the time is usually when I leave out the house and come back in the house. And I look up and down my street and up and down my neighborhood. I look at the properties. I look at the graffiti. I look at the conditions of my neighbors' lifestyles, um, the the kids, the schools, and I think we kind of just overlook it a lot. I mean, we hear about it in the news. There are some discussions, but I don't know if we truly get into real detail about a community. So I wanted to know how you feel just in general. First of all, is this well? I save that one, but in terms of just community in general, how do you feel about the state of it in 2024 versus when we were younger?
That's a big question, and it's the kind of question that has to be looked at gently because and looked at thoroughly because there are so many aspects that we can talk about and so many things that have that have contributed to the state of community today. First of all, I believe that community is one of the most important fundamental parts of humanity, and without it, we're finished. There are actually three pillars, I believe, that really make humanity possible, and all three of them have to be present in order for the human enterprise, which is the human race, to be able to function well and to prosper. The first one is obvious. It's reproduction. That goes without saying. Without people, this conversation is moot. The second one is building community, because building community is the most important part of what makes humanity possible, what makes the human experience enjoyable and prosperous. And there's a lot that goes into that, which I'll go into later. The third part is developing moral worth, which is another way of saying the ability to do good. And if you aren't taking the time to do good, what is the point? If you aren't developing ways of doing better for others, what's the point? So your question about building community, it's two parts. The first one is making sure that the idea of community is as important to enough people to make sure it can be it's something that can be fostered, and that's not hard to do because we're hardwired to build community anyway. The second part is looking at the things that have challenged community, how it's challenged it, and what we need to do to bring it back to balance. So the biggest thing that has challenged community is technology. I think technology has done a great job, whether on purpose or by accident, of eroding community. And we see it all the time on social media. People are more concerned with their phones, concerned with their own um, ongoings than they are about the people around them, about making those genuine connections that make community possible. And it's no wonder that we are living in a time when depression among men and women is at its highest point ever in history. There is no it is not coincidental. This is causal. The fact that we have become more insular, more self-serving, more self-interested, and more self-aggrandizing has led proportionally to the amount of dissatisfaction and depression and anxiety that we see in life today.
A common dialogue that goes back and forth between men and women, usually that I've noticed on a lot of panels, is a specific set of dynamics in terms of roles between men and women. I want to kind of get your take, and I'll start it off just to say that a lot of what you said, I absolutely agree with. Technology has been very instrumental, not only to the infrastructures of what we see around us, providing us with more um, schools, more environments where people can get help with just certain things that might be going on in their personal or maybe external life. I guess what I'm getting at is it a human issue where one thing is keeping the other thing out of balance or out of check? So because you don't have um, leadership in households, or you don't have that balance of femininity and masculinity to kind of converge and bring stability to their home, it's a reflection on everybody that's on the outside looking in. So let's say the father isn't someone who grew up knowing how to be a father. He got his ideals and he learned how to be a man from watching movies and listening to rap music or whatever. And the woman got her thinking on how to be a wife or whatever. She learned from feminists. She learned from people who kind of just didn't have the right guidelines to show them what is correct and what isn't. And so what you have is you have these two completely off-keyed individuals walking in this idea that the way that they're living is conducive to a healthy foundation in a home and in a relationship or in a partnership, and it spills over into their children, and their children carried outside of the house, and then from outside the house it goes into other people's businesses and infrastructures, and now you have just this disillusion of what is supposed to be this and what is supposed to be that. I look, and I mean, graffitiing and destroying and having houses that's abandoned and doesn't have anyone living in them for years because people couldn't pay rent, or maybe some tragic things happened in these houses and they got completely left for whatever you want to phrase it. Is it a people thing, or is it bigger than just us?
Oh, it's much bigger. There's an agenda, and I can say this for a fact. This is not coincidental. This is not the natural evolution of people. In fact, if people were allowed to evolve in their natural way, there would be an inclination of men to act in a masculine way and women to act in a feminine way, by and large. Now, I'm sure there are going to be some people that say, well, there are always outliers. Yes, but you can't make a rule based on outliers. You cannot look at the outliers for the rule. Those are the exceptions. And while the exceptions happen, they are exceptions, and so they have to be treated as exceptions. The thing that I've been noticing, I'm glad you're actually bringing this to light, that you're going in this direction with community. I wasn't sure exactly what you were meaning to talk about, but I'm really glad you're talking about this, because this is something that my business partner and I, we actually tackle with the Inspirational Man, which is the workshop that we're creating. Men are natural leaders. This has been known for a very, very long time. Men are just natural leaders. They are supposed to lead. And it's because they lead by being of service to others. Women are leaders in their own way, not in the same way as men. The way that women lead is that they nurture, they develop, and they cultivate. And they do that in every area of their life. Men lead in their way through their determination, their ability to act, and their fearlessness, by and large. And when both of these things are working together, you create a dynamic where you have the structure of the masculine energy, the leadership energy that creates the direction of where things go. And then you have the power of the feminine energy that gives life to that structure, that then allows for a purpose to go in that direction. And without either one of these structures, it begins to fall apart. And that's what we're beginning to see now. We're beginning to see that there's a breakdown of the human system, because there are men who are believing that they should be acting more feminine, and women who believe that they should be acting more masculine. And once again, it's no coincidence that we're also seeing a higher rate of dissatisfaction, depression, and desire for checking out than we've seen at any other time in history. It's because there are I hate to use the word forces. It's more like there are institutions out there that have agendas, and the agendas are to destroy the family system, which is the core structure of community. And in order to do that, in order to bring about a whole new system that is not conducive for human development, but because there is a self-serving guiding hand in there, they don't care. I'm not going to say this group out loud because it's going to create a lot of backlash. I really people can investigate this for themselves, but there are groups out there that are looking to destroy what is commonly referred to as the patriarchy, which is nothing more than the system that has created the civilization that we all thrive in. And because we've been able to thrive, who's to say that that's bad? I mean, we've all benefited from it, men and women alike. So to say that doing something that is counter to that is going to actually do some good, I don't see how that's possible, because we've been able to thrive under this structure. But there, like I said, there is a desire to implement something else for self-serving gains. And in order for us to maintain the benefits that we have enjoyed so far, back from when you and especially myself, were kids. I'm 44 years old. I'm not sure how old you are, but I grew up in the 80s. So I remember what life was like when you were supposed to ride bikes when you're supposed to be outside all day riding bikes with your friends. You didn't come home until the streetlights came on. And God help you if it came on before that. But now in a society where we have kids that are stuck to their Xbox, they're holed up in their rooms with their iPads and their iPhones and their TVs, and just not going out, not doing anything. And I'm sure that there is something there is a shift there. I don't know how that's going to impact society long term. I don't know. I don't have enough information on that yet. But the worst part is that by being stuck to these media devices, they're being bombarded with these propagandic messages that are telling them that the way that men have acted is bad and they can't do that anymore. Or the way that women have been acting all the way up until now, well, it's not good enough. You deserve more. You need to be a bad bitch. You need to get yours. You need to be independent. And in these two things going on, what we've seen is a breakdown of society. We have laws now that make marriage just a kind of a hobby rather than a contract. It's something where people get into in order to find a way to get rich off of somebody else's hard work, where kids are considered to be pawns rather than the future of our society. And if that is the direction that we're going, then we're doomed. We as a species are absolutely doomed. I spoke a lot.
No, you're fine. 1,000 people speak on this every day, and I use my my Bluetooth when I'm at work just to extract different information from these various red pill shows and these platforms that discuss human interaction. Everyone is kind of here and there with how they feel about the gender roles. You have men versus women, passport bros, wage gap. Men ain't doing their part, women ain't doing their part. And all I can think of when I hear these conversations over and over and over and over again is simply they have successfully implemented the plan that they wanted to. They said, and I've said this on a number of occasions, at some point, whoever they were, they got together, they sat at a table, they rolled out a blueprint, they shared ideas, they decided how they were going to do it, what they were going to use, who they were going to use, how they were going to get it out to the public. They put a timestamp on it, and they did exactly what they said they were going to do. It was coordinated, it was very meticulous, and it was done so well that people don't even understand how deep this goes. They're looking at it from just a standpoint of, when I talk or when you talk, we're trying to bash or attack women, or we're trying to attack men, when in all reality, the real enemy is laughing, counting them paychecks, and speak on it all you want until you actually wake up and decide that, okay, this is really a problem, and this is bigger than what we're fighting over. Why am I attacking him or attacking her? Why can't I see past my programmed hate? That's what it is. You don't, how can I say this? You don't really hate men. You don't really hate women. But the way they designed it, they got you thinking you do. It's all a mirage. And it's unfortunate because, especially when you're an adult and you can't see the facade that's right there in front of you, that's sad, because you're going to pour all of that toxic information into your generations to come, and they're going to be the ones who suffer from it because they weren't taught the right way. They weren't shown certain things that's happening, that's being filtered and censored out, because they don't want us to be woke to what's really happening. So men aren't being men because they weren't raised to be men, or they were put in a place of, well, you're going to be a villain. If I got boundaries or I got standards, or I say, look, the way you're moving as a young lady is detrimental to my last name, is detrimental to your children. It's going to put a stain on you. It's going to put a stain on the foundation. It's going to make the community, it's going to make womanhood look a certain way by you acting the way you are. I can't allow you to go out here and present yourself like this. Oh, I don't want to deal with someone who is overly promiscuous. Or if I say to somebody that's out here in the street and you knocking up every single female that you see, that's not the way to go. That's not a man at all. You picking up a gun to put down somebody over a disagreement is not manly. Not having an education is not manly. Being overly abrasive and trying to put fear in people is not manly. Not being able to have a conversation. everything is slurs and violence out of your mouth and from your heart is not manly. Allowing someone to treat you like you're a slave is not manly. Not having a voice when it's time to have a voice is not manly. But they got it set up to where if a man stands on his 10 toes and says, no, this is not my president. No, we got to get this person out of office. No, that's not acceptable. Women don't move or conduct. They villainize you. And so men are just like, you know what? I'm getting locked up and I didn't even do anything wrong. I'm getting blackballed because I said X, Y, and Z. I'm getting shamed, spit at. I'm getting my livelihood removed from me because I stand for something. I have principles. And you don't want these principles imparted in anyone, because if they have this knowledge, then you can't manipulate and use us the way that you've been using us. Now you see our streets are a mess. The properties are a mess. Why? How is that possible? How can so many places be so just out of order? How are there so many homeless people? How are there so many children in Chirac living the lifestyle on Facebook and on social media with their guns out, pridefully talking about don't come on this block or come on this neighborhood, and if you wear the wrong things or whatever, it's going to be a problem, XYZ. Why are little girls in kindergarten singing Sexy Red? Why are teachers trying to groom children into being a transgender type? Why are these things happening? Why is it being allowed to happen? So they are romanticizing everything that is wrong. They're giving the keys to evil, and they're trying to shame anything that's good or decent or has anything to do with order. And that's really one of the main problems with why our communities are the way they are, and at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm stepping on the fourth wall or breaking the fourth wall or whatever, but
so here's something that's really interesting that I've noticed. I've come across a lot of people, and sometimes my wife does this too, where it's something called doom scrolling, where you just get caught up in all the bad news. You just keep on going for more and more and more, because it just becomes that train wreck you can't seem to get rid of, or you can't seem to get out of. And what I found to be the best solution for this is to not worry so much about the problem, except to understand it. Understand the problem the same way that a doctor understands how to diagnose something like cancer. And what you do is you look for the symptoms, and then you look at the root cause. So everything that you've described is pretty much a symptom. And the root cause, from what I've seen and from the research that I've done and what I've experienced, has to do with greed. Greed is the number one thing that ties us all together, that has made the desire to ruin the communities, and has also been the cause of the ruin of community. Because greed becomes the thing where it makes you feel like it's okay to be self-serving. It's okay to act in a way that is selfish. And I don't care who you are, it's never okay to act selfish. Because as soon as you act selfish, you then sacrifice what's really important. Because you're focusing on your own gains. But guess what? those gains are very temporary. Eventually, you're going to die, and everything's going to go with you, and you will be forgotten. And then life will move on without your memory, or without anything that you've contributed in your life to positively impact the human condition. And so then what you've just done is you've become a cancerous blip on the face of humanity. And the only cure for this is to act in a way that promotes community, to act in a way that treats people with grace. The people that want to become OnlyFans famous. Okay, I'm sorry you feel that way. I hope that eventually you find a better way. But while we're talking about it, let's figure out what else is possible. Or the people that are talking about like passport bros, or there are a lot of these. There are some podcasts that are red pill podcasts, and some of them are decent at times. They all go overboard at some point. They all go in the extreme direction the other way, and that's never helpful. And being able to help them understand that what they're doing is the exact same thing that is contributing to the problem. They aren't doing anything to solve it. They're focusing on what they can gain on their own personal gain by taking advantage of the disparity, but that doesn't do anything. All that is necessary is to focus on what's really important. And that is what is going to promote the ever advancing, or the constant advancement of the human condition. How can we promote the betterment of each other, of the society at large? When you see yourself as part of the bigger whole, you realize that your contributions have to be for that whole, not just for you. Because when the contributions are just for you, you are robbing you're robbing the whole of something they could benefit from, because you have decided that you are more important than the whole that you are a part of. And that's not something that can be resolved easily. There's no way to be able to say that I am more important and my contributions are also going to benefit all of humanity. It doesn't work that way. You can't have a fear-based mindset of I'm gonna get as much as I can so that I don't lose out, or that I don't get something taken away from, or I don't get something taken away from me, or whatever else like that, and say that I am going to be of service to humanity. They're diametrically opposed. The only way that you can become a part of the solution is to give up the idea that you by yourself are any more important than the rest of the human condition, and desire to be a part of the human condition to create an advancement for those that will come after you, and create something that will be useful for the future generations, so that when you go, and we all go, when you go, there's something left behind that people will benefit from, and your legacy becomes that benefit for humanity.
Absolutely agree. A lot of selfishness. It's one thing to, be taught the wrong way, but then once you get to a certain place in your life, a certain age, I would like to believe you know how to get the help, or maybe you know that there are certain doors that you can take that's going to allow you to monopolize off of your mistakes and create something better from your choices prior, so that you don't put anyone else in the same cycle that you were in. If you're someone who has come out of an addiction, share your story. If you're fighting a habit, share your story. If you have a testimony, share your story. because what's going to happen is it's going to allow whoever it is that needs to hear the message to look in itself and slowly but surely start to invest a little bit more in rebuilding and remolding and doing things within them that's going to be healthy and beneficial to them in the long run. That's I love that you said that. It's something that's very absent, and I don't want to be a distraction because the root is definitely where we should be at. I can do something by just being a little more friendlier and a little more neighborly, be a little more involved in what's going on across the street from me. I can be an eye for the dangers that's happening. There's ways instead of saying, look, I'm so sick and tired of all this crime. I'm so sick of this and so sick of that. Well, we are actually we are the actual answers. We are the answers. God isn't physically here, but we are vessels, and through us, His Spirit gives this proof that He exists. If we're operating in His ways, then He is present. And it's interesting too because you hear a lot of people waiting on miracles to happen, waiting on certain things to shake up, to move. And you pray and you pray and you pray. Some people pray, some people don't. But you want all this stuff to happen for yourself, for your loved ones in general. But you're not even realizing that you have everything that you need right here. We actually have the power to change just about everything that is here visibly. All we have to do is use what we have and actually do something with it instead of not saying that the conversations aren't important, but just as much as we talk, we can actually be doers as well, faithful for our works.
There's something you said regarding gender roles, and I'm sure that there's going to be someone who comes on to this, who views this podcast, either as a recording or comes across the live stream, whatever, either on your account or mine, because I'm also streaming this on my places, where they're going to say, well, gender roles are part of the problem. And I think what we need to do is we need to create a different understanding of what gender roles are. And gender roles, especially in today's modern time, has nothing to do with who is the breadwinner, who takes care of the home, has nothing to do with that. Those are incidental. And they're responsibilities of the people who live in the home. And they are things that in any relationship, there needs to be an understanding of how that's going to take place. The gender role has to do with, as a man, by and large, for the most part, you are going to have an urge to want to do something, to make something, to fix something. That is the male urge, the desire to promote himself in a way that is going to make himself of service to others. And that is good, and that feels natural because it is natural. the female urge is to, like I said before, develop, cultivate, and educate. Women have always been and always will be the first educators of children and the transmitters of culture. Always. And that's because they're the ones who carry children to term, and they are the first ones that the child has contact with. And so it's no wonder that women by nature are going to be more prone towards development and cultivation. And that's a good thing that needs to be promoted. But that has nothing to do with the utility roles of the house or wherever you live or the community at large. This just means that women are going to be much more prone to being supportive. And support is still a leadership role. Leadership, as I've learned to understand it, is someone who is of the utmost service in a way that their capacity allows. It is something that they do regardless of where they're at the job, they're at the home, they're by themselves, they're with others, they're married, they're single, it doesn't matter. It is something you do for the rest of your life because leaders always lead. And as I said before, men are natural leaders. And so are women. Men lead by doing things, by taking risks, and by blazing a trail. And women lead by being as supportive of that trail as possible and making sure that everything that they helped create and develop, it makes that the trailblazing worthwhile. There's a reason for it. I think that what's his name? Who's that singer who sings "I Feel Good"? I forget his name, but he has a song. This is a man's world.
Oh, James Brown.
Thank you. James Brown's famous song is "This is a man's world," but the next line after that, but it means nothing without a woman, because the women that we have in our lives, they make life worth living. They give it color. They give it reason. They give us reason to do what we do. And as men, we have to take that as a responsibility. Something that we say we have a solemn responsibility to do something because the people that we are doing this for matter. And we honor them by continuing to do what they do. And we are honored by letting us know that what we are doing is worthwhile, that is benefit, that there is gratitude behind the results of what we have produced. And that partnership allows for the continual advancement of community, of society, of the human condition, and teaches our children the right way to live as human beings. And the only way that we can continue to do this is if we teach our children how to be a good man and a good woman. And a good man and a good woman is nothing more than a person who stays true to that urge to either be of service, to make themselves of service, to blaze the trail, or to be supportive and to be educational and provide the resources necessary that makes it feel like this the journey is worth it.
You know, I'm glad you said that. I tend to stay away from this because I don't. It's kind of like what's understood don't really need to be said. When I was coming up, and I was born in the 80s too. I just had a birthday yesterday. My grandfather, he stepped in and took on the parental role in my life. What I watched was him working 12-hour shifts Sometimes I didn't see them. Sometimes I did. And my grandmother would work too, but she still would cook, and there was not really a difference in the importance or significance of who did what. Because sometimes she would cook for the majority of the time, but then there would be times where he would cook. One thing was always for certain. They did laundry together every Saturday night. They always went to the laundromat at 12 o'clock at night. He always made sure she got to work. Went to the bus stop, drove her, picked her up. If he didn't get the groceries, she got the groceries. One thing, it was a unit. There was no division. There was no you do this, I do that type of a. It wasn't like she got a list of orders from the drill sergeant and or vice versa. It was just a. It was unison.
Hmm.
Nobody was fighting over who was paying more of what and this and that and the third. Nobody was trying to outman the other person or out woman the person. She was just naturally herself, and he was just naturally him, and it just worked. And for whatever reason, people now they got this idea that being feminine means that you're essentially nothing more than a incubator for children. There's people who promote it like that. There's individuals in these spaces who they word it wrong, or they speak as if your futility is really your only offer. But just like you said, I loved that part about um, you can be a leader in different aspects of your position in the relationship, because just because the man is the one taking trash out and doing the hard laborious job doesn't mean that you're not a leader supporting him. It doesn't mean that you're not a leader being his backbone and being his strength and being his comfort. There's no weakness in that, but it's being promoted as if it's a weakness to support the other person, and that you're not valuable or you have no worth because you're following under him. And if he loses his job or he decides that he no longer wants to be bothered with you, then you're going to be out on your butt. That's how it's always coming off in these spaces. And so women are looking at it like they're going to be asked out if they don't have their own money and their own success.
Yeah,
There's
relationships are being seen as a risk.
yeah, exactly. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we need to kind of acknowledge the fact that that's a fallacy and get this programming out of our head that we are less than or more than the next person because of our positions. Look, if a woman is going to be feminine and walk in traditional values and ways, men will definitely take care of you if you are vetting right. If you are taking the proper chances to get to know yourself and get to know the person, you won't have the problems that you've had. The only reason why we have failed so much in our relationships, having children out of wedlock, so on and so on, is because we've innately took on bad habits of our parents horrible examples. If we kind of slow down and first of all, a lot of the stuff that we see on TV, we shouldn't even be paying attention to or listening to. I find myself having to not watch that stuff too much myself because I'll get on here and have a whole tangent about some red pill stuff, and it's not me. I'm speaking from someone else's perspective completely, but I didn't really realize it until after I said whatever I said for like the last 5-10 minutes.
Mhm.
So
It's important to be able to understand what the solution is. I mean, if we know that the problem is fear, which leads to selfishness, then what's the solution? The opposite of fear is trust. And the only way that we can come out of this rut is learning to trust each other and learning to be vulnerable with each other. And that means taking the risk of being the first person who demonstrates trust. Well, something that Brene Brown says is that trust is the first thing we look for in others and the last thing we're willing to show ourselves. And that creates a huge problem because when we are unwilling to demonstrate trust first, for me, if you and I are creating a friendship, Melvin, and we're each looking to each other to see who's going to make the first move of demonstrating trust, how well is that going to work? It's not. Because I'm always looking for something from you that lets me know, give me a reason why I can trust you. And you're doing the same thing from me. Give me a reason why I should trust you. And we're both waiting for something before we show our hands. It's almost like a game of Texas Hold'em, where you don't want to be the first one to show your hand because you're afraid that you might lose leverage, which is stupid. Instead, understanding that trust is a gift. It is a superpower. And when you're willing to demonstrate it responsibly, I'm not saying go out and just try to trust every Tom, Dick, and Harry because that's going to be a huge downfall. But by using discernment and when you get a good vibe from a person, being willing to show them or demonstrate the willingness to show trust and to be trusting of another person, that goes a long way because people want to have a reason to be trustworthy. And when you are the first person to extend that hand and say, I am someone that you can trust, and that trust is honored, and they give someone the understanding they can also take the risk of being willing to trust, and that trust is met with good favor. Now you can begin the process of sharing vulnerability. And again, this is another superpower. Vulnerability creates massive connection. It creates a desire to build more trust, which deepens the vulnerability, which creates a more impactful relationship. And this is seen. This has been shown to work in the professional setting, in the personal setting, and the intimate setting, the social setting. I mean, and the intimate setting. There's no difference in how this works, only in how it's exercised. I mean, though that's a completely different conversation. But by the willingness to share trust, the willingness to show trust and to receive trust once it has been reciprocated, that is the backbone of how communities are built. You demonstrate trust that you are someone worthy of trusting, and that you are worthy of being shown trust in return. That creates the foundation of building a good relationship. And relationships are what communities are based on.
trust. Can love exist without trust? I dare say it can't. In fact, I know it can't. 30 some plus years living in this neighborhood, and I still don't know half of my neighbors. Some of them more than others. some things that I've seen, like they're starting to transition different people from locations. There are some differences between certain areas that I've noticed. There are neighbors that will knock on your door. They'll bring you pie or brownies. They'll walk their dog and say hi to you when they see you. And then there's the neighbors that they'll sit on their porch every day. You'll see them during the summertime. You'll see them sometimes during the wintertime. They're just sitting there and they won't say a word to you, but they see everything. And then you have your neighbors who are just loud and they blast their music till 2 o'clock in the morning, and they don't have no respect for nobody in the proximity. Trust is definitely lacking, and it's very, very evident because if people weren't so scared of the consequences behind snitching when there's a crime being committed, if people were more concerned about what was happening next door to them, if people actually cared about the little children walking up and down their streets acting grown, knowing damn well that they have no business doing what they are doing out here with these little boys and these little girls. But because it's not your child, you don't feel like you need to say anything out of fear of being attacked. People cared more, we would see better results. We would see more results. In fact, we should be doing exactly that because how can I really trust you to look out for me when I just saw you let somebody get robbed, or I just saw you watch somebody get beat? Why would I come to you for any type of advice, help, or anything? So it's a domino effect.
Hmm.
You said it. Somebody gotta take the step.
Exactly. Imagine what would happen if we lived in a world where, and I love Anna Fox's comment. Thanks for the free therapy. um, Imagine if we lived in a world where when someone who was just focused on themselves, they did something, and the entire community came around and came together, and they not only ensured that the people that were victimized were okay, but they also made sure to let the perpetrator know that that was not acceptable, and they did what was necessary in order to make sure this didn't happen again. Or imagine if there was a parent who was so frustrated with the children that they result in physical violence, and we as a community gathered around to not only protect excuse me, to not only protect the child, but also to connect with the parent to find out what is going on with them that makes them feel like this is the only answer. And we surrounded them with the support that they needed in order to feel like they were understood, respected, and valued. Imagine the kind of world that we would live in if those things happened. And the only question becomes then is how can I help? How can I do my part to contribute to that? And finding other like-minded people who want to, regardless of the challenges, regardless of the threat involved, move forward anyway because they knew that it was the only way forward. It was the only way that that reality could continue.
What if? It's funny saying it like that, like it's impossible, it's unlikely to happen. When you really think about it, it's very possible. It should be one of the main focal points that we target. It shouldn't be rocket science, but it's fear. It's fear of what comes behind doing the right thing. Fear of who's going to look at you differently, who's going to out you, who's going to cut you off. Again, they set it up perfectly. And I'm not saying that there aren't people who think like you or me, because they are, but it's far in between that, or maybe they're doing exactly what we're doing right now. And they're bumping their heads against the wall trying to get people's attention too. But folks are just stubborn. And as long as it's not bringing a discomfort to them, then it's not really that big of a deal. It's never really a big problem until it is close to home. Now you want to rally. You want to be out there protesting and picketing. Now you want to march the nation's capital. Now you want to cause all of this havoc, by which you're not doing any good doing that either. Destroying property and going out here attacking people and bringing ignorance to combat ignorance is not going to help either. Why? Let's not wait any longer to be the voice and to be the example. If no
I
one
think
else,
that I think that you've identified something really important, and that's the fact that while there are many people who are probably frustrated, like you and I, about this issue, how can they possibly make any kind of impact? How do we know that what we're talking about is going to make any kind of real impact? That's the $64 million question. And the only answer that I can give is it becomes an impact when enough people come together who are willing to move in the same direction and are willing to create the foundation necessary to turn this into an irresistible movement. And that's really what the goal of leadership is. It's to create a shift. It's to create a movement of seismic proportions, especially when you deal with an illness that is this pervasive. It requires a great amount of energy to be expended in order to move things in a different direction. It's not impossible. It's not even improbable. All it takes is enough people to have the same vision, the same goal, and move in the same direction. That's it. And it's just about being able to find those people and then get everyone willing to be on the same page. And again, this takes sacrificing your own personal ambitions for the greater good of all concerned. And that can be probably the hardest part, because the question then becomes, well, how do I know that I'm going to achieve what I need to achieve? Well, how do you know that you won't? And how do you know that the goals aren't aligned? It becomes just a again a exercise in trust.
Gotta have faith, even when you don't even know where it's gonna come from, how it's gonna come, when it's gonna come. You just gotta do it from the right place in your heart. It's never these type of voyages are never just going to be smooth sailing at all. And understanding that, now you have to decide if it's worth it or not. And if you really stand on your principles and what you believe, if the answer is yes, then you already know it's going to be worth it regardless. So to whoever is out there that's actually doing the necessary things, I salute them. I appreciate you for standing up against the tyranny, against all of it, saying no, I'm not going to just sit back and just let this happen. You are appreciated. And you have two more people here that are right along with you who want to see that change and want to bring that change as well. So thank you for your time, for your energy, for your effort. We appreciate you.
Thank you. This is a really good topic, and I'm glad that we talked about this today. I'm hoping to have more conversations like this.
Definitely. I'm going to. I don't know. I'm thinking about some things. By the time the weekend is over with, I'll have something. Um, there's one particular subject that I think if I can get this individual on, it would be very, very unique. But we'll definitely talk about that. In the meantime, I thank you again for your professionalism, for your thoughts, for your wisdom, for your time, for your energy, for your service. And I will definitely see you next week.
Yes, you will.
I send my thoughts and my prayers to your loved ones, asking God to keep you and keep everybody covered in the name of Jesus. Um, enjoy your weekend. Have a blessed night. If you need to reach out to me, you already know how to, bro. It goes both ways, man. I've reached out to you about something off camera. The same olive branches extended to you.
Oh, I'll definitely be taking you up on that when I need to. Absolutely. I appreciate that.
All right. So we about to go ahead and close out of here, man. You enjoy the rest of the evening. And shout out to Anna and everybody who pulled up tonight. This is Assembly of Excellence saying good night and signing out.